This is something I know you're a key player in. BBC pay disclosures. For the first time in the longest of times, every single paper has the same story.
Except for the eye on the front page.
Everything else, I haven't seen the eye.
The eye hasn't got it on the frent page, but it's the only one. Even the FT's got it on the front page.
But I think they went big on it yesterday, so I suppose they can be forgiven for, being ahead of the game. Now, you were one of the people who pushed for this disclosure of salaries, weren't you?
I did. I'm known for being a bit of a critic of the BBC, and what I don't like is authority and power without accountability. And I think the way the BBC's funded, between licence fee renewal chart and renewal periods, the BBC goes into that mode, and part of the accountability is to the people who pay the licence fees, because the BBC is funded by a compulsory tax, TV tax.
Yeah, it's an impost, isn't it?
It is. You've got no choice really to opt out unless you don't want to watch live television. It's actually a tax for having a television. And it's under threat of criminal prosecution if you don't pay it. It's a regressive tax, i.e. the poorest in our society pay £145.50 and the richest people in our society pay £145.50.
So if you've got a few bob, you could have 5 TVs in your house, one in each of the kids' bedrooms or whatever, and you pay just that one licence fee.
Well, it's a regressive tax. It hits everybody, so it hits the poorest hardest. About a dozen people a year go to prison for non-payment of fines associated with not paying the TV licence. And I think, it's an anachronism, that it's a criminal offence to not pay a £145.50. So because of that, and the way the BBC's funded, and it is funded to the tune of £3 billion of taxpayers' money a year, the BBC has to accept more scrutiny than a private business. And part of that accountability in public services, we've asked or insisted that as part of charter renewal, employees at the BBC, talent, who get more than £150,000, which is more than the Prime Minister gets paid, have to declare within bands of £50,000 their income. And what's come out's been quite interesting. I think it's initially a bit of a shock, a culture shock for the BBC, but I think in the long term it's going to be good for them. Because they need that accountability.
And didn't you try and raise something related to this matter in the House yesterday?
I put an urgent question in to debate this, which would call the Secretary of State for Culture, Media and Sport, Karen Bradley, to the dispatch box, and she would answer questions from me and the rest of the House. I've actually put that in again this morning, so at 9 o'clock this morning I'll know if I've got that urgent question. And then, there's lots of things I think we need to discuss. It's mostly about the gender pay gap the papers are all going with this morning.
I think that's a red herring, if I'm being honest.
Well, I think we have to be careful about this. I'm in favour of everybody getting the right pay for the job they do, whether they're working for the BBC or anywhere else, and that's whether they're male, female, black, white, gay, straight.
And certainly within the BBC,
and I think
outside the world of celebrity, that happens.
Well, the BBC are very big on these PC issues, I think, and the gender pay gap. They're often talking about it, but now we find out it's perceived that they may have been perpetrating it. Well, I think this level of transparency and perhaps the public furore that there is going to be probably over the next few days, and knowing that they've got to come back next year and produce the same report, I think that will tackle that issue rather quickly. And all I think is that people, whatever gender, whatever orientation they may be, whatever creed they may be, people should be paid what they deserve for the job they do.
So should the licence fee go then, do you think, Andrew?
If it was up to me, and I've suggested this many times, it should be a subscription model. The BBC constantly